This is the true history of Chapter 4, Season 1. Just a quick recap, in Chapter 3, after the defeat of Seeker, the island was at peace. But then, soonly after, the fracture event happened, causing the end of Chapter 3. Seeker said to Dipolomoon and said, "Alright, we're gonna part off and do our own thing." So Seeker went and did his own server, but weeks and weeks went by, and it seemed like Seeker was building an army to attack the United Fortnite Republic. Dipolomoon got pretty mad about that, so he sent spies, and tension rised until it reached a boiling point, meaning the start of World War IV. World War IV has just started, and Dipolomoon didn't have any way to access Seeker's server, so he asked his top scientist, Purple Ether, to make a way to invade Seeker's server. Purple made a way through the 0 point to access Seeker's server. As soon as this happened, Dipola's army, aka the United Fortnite Republic, entered Seeker's server and started the invasion. They went through the landscape destroying everything until they found Seeker's whereabouts at Slappy Shores. There was the massive fight at Slappy Shores that lasted quite a bit, but part of Seeker's army ran to Brutal Bastions. Dipola followed and had started invading Brutal Bastions, but they fled back to Slappy Shores. Fighting continued at Slappy Shores for a long while until Seeker fled to Anvil Square. As soon as this happened, the last stand happened for Seeker's army. Dipola attacked fierce with his army. The United Fortnite Republic was smashing the United Fortnite Federation, but Seeker stuck in the fight. There was brutal fighting until the fighting ended in a stalemate. Dipola and Seeker went to meet the peace table and said, "Let's just peace out and let everyone be free to do everything." But Seeker tried to make backdoor deals to make it better for himself. So Dipolomoon was mad and had enough of Seeker. Constant fighting for a whole year in Chapter 3 got to Dipola's head. So that meant Dipolomoon made Operation Iron Wall, kicking Seeker finally, and this was the end of Seeker for now. Finally, the island was finally at peace from Seeker's tyranny. A whole year of fighting Seeker had finally ended peacefully. After this, the United Fortnite Republic hosted the World Cup and many other events that grew the nation's popularity. After this, Dipolomoon stepped down as the leader of the nation and elections happened. Yeah, Seeker did threaten through the 0 point to invade, example Woofy and some others, but that never reeled. But later was starting to erupt over every starting about and the moon stuff. So he ran the state governor at the end. In the move, he won the exact state, securing his election bid. But later on, they started suppressing Dipolomoon, as the president at the time didn't like Dipolomoon. But the vice president did not want Dipolomoon coming back. His name was Darth Knight, and he suppressed Dipolomoon greatly. So then Dipolomoon had enough. He talked to his mayors, the mayor of Slappy Shores itself, and some of the other regions that the Anzac state controlled. He convinced World War I soldier, Pac-Man, and himself to start a massive revolution. He also talked to some of the leaders in the western states to rise up so they can take the capital swiftly. This was the start of the plot to take out the United Fortnite Republic and end its tyranny, since it started to turn away from the thing it originally became. This was the start of the Fortnite Civil War. Straight away, the Anzacs blitzed through a major city, capturing it with ease. They started rushing to the Rhine River and crossed it, but the United Fortnite Republic pushed back. But meanwhile, the Western state declared war on the United Fortnite Republic, capitulating Salamander, and officially the Fortnite Civil War ended. Now we're in the interwar period. There was the Anzac Nation, the United Fortnite Republic, now called the Fortnite Republic, and the Western state, now called Northern Russia. During this period, the Fortnite Republic collapsed, making two new nations, the Kingdom of Basilia and the Kingdom of Kasok. The Kingdom of Kasok was quite aggressive to the Anzac government, so the Anzac nation started planning to overthrow the leader, Falcon rebels. The Anzac officials started looking for a great person to overthrow the nation, so they looked around and they finally found someone. His name was Broly. Broly was a person that wanted power greatly, so as soon as the Anzacs came to them and said, "We will fund you on taking out Falcon rebels and his government," Broly accepted, starting the Kasok Civil War. The Kasok Civil War was quite fast as Falcon rebels surrendered straight away, and now Broly was the new leader of the Kasok the Kingdom of Kasok. So he renamed it to the Kasok Republic. As this was going on, the Anzac nation went to the northern Russian government and they asked them, "Hey, what are we going to do about the Citadel, the former capital of the United Fortnite Republic, since it was divided between the Russians and the Anzacs?" The Anzacs and the Russians made a deal that, "Hey, we'll just make a new nation, but who will run this nation?" And there was one person that wanted a nation really badly, and it was World War I soldier, a governor of the Anzac nation. Russia and Anzac accepted the idea, and World War I soldier now owned the new nation of New Switzerland. This nation was vowed to promise never intervene in anything, do anything, meaning it was going to be a neutral nation. World War I accepted, and Russia and Anzac no longer had a border with each other. But during this time in northern Russia, there was someone that hated the government. See, northern Russia was led by a person called Starwings that really didn't know how to run a country. So there was someone that hated this, someone that wanted change, someone wanted a communist change. There was this person called Bruce. He really didn't like Starwings, so he caused a communist revolution to overthrow the duly elected kingdom of northern Russia. In a matter of days, the communists took over most of their land and took out the king of northern Russia, Starwings. Bruce was now the leader of Soviet northern Russia, and this was getting set up for World War V. The preparation for World War V started when the Anzacs realized that they were the global superpower of the island. They knew that the other nations were wanting their resources since they had most of the island under their control. So the Anzacs planned that, hey, we need to extend our border into some of the other regions, but they are controlled by other nations. They wanted to extend their regions in the snow region and in the autumn region, but they knew that this wasn't going to be easy to do. So they started talking to the Russians on carving up the Kasok Republic, since the Kasok Republic, once allied to the Anzac nation, started acting really aggressive because they wanted the snow region. But the snow region was key parts of the Anzac nation. So the Anzacs and the Russians started doing an operation to carve up the Kasok Republic, and this kind of sounds familiar. On one fateful day, the Anzacs and the Russians started the invasion of the Kasok Republic. Soon after, the Basilians joined. The Kasoks had no choice, so they surrendered to the Anzacs and the Russians. But in a sudden twist, the Anzacs and the Kasoks declared war on the Russians, and they quickly capitulated. See, the Anzacs made a deal with the Kasoks that they will get northern lands if they give them the southern lands that they wanted. They also made a deal with the small nation of New Switzerland to give them a tip of the island so they can invade the capital, breaking New Switzerland's neutrality. Soon after that, the Anzacs threatened to declare war on the Basilians if they didn't give them the Sudetenland, some southern lands in the south of the Basilian nation. Basilia accepted and gave them the lands that they wanted. As this was going on, the Russians were licking their wounds but preparing for their next move, declaring war on New Switzerland. No one knows why they did this, but they wanted more land, they claimed. New Switzerland claimed that they were just a neutral nation doing their own thing, but northern Russia did not care and wanted their land. So World War I set it up their defenses as Bruce and his army invaded New Switzerland. But as this was going on, the Russians did this terribly and couldn't even take out a small little nation, starting a long war in the process. As this was going on, the Anzacs looked on and laughed as the Russians were having troubles on fighting the New Switzerland people. But as this was happening, surprise, surprise, Basilia started attacking Anzac territory, aka the territory that they just took from them. The Basilians said that they wanted their old southern lands back, and the Anzacs were like, okay, fine. But they were met from fierce resistance from the Basilian military. The Anzacs, mainly DePaul Moon, was terribly scared that they could actually win this war, so they started mobilizing. They got some troops, mainly Bradel and Sorrow, to attack towards the southern territory that they were now occupying. They won that battle, and they started attacking the capital city of Anvil Square, where a picture was taken. And then the collapse of New Switzerland finally happened, and the Russians established a puppet regime called the Socialist Republic of New Switzerland. As this was happening, the Anzacs were starting to push more into Basilia. It seemed like the Basilians have finally lost, but the Russians saw that the Basilians were weak, so they started their invasion from the north, capturing most of the north, and the Anzacs captured most of the south. Basilia was divided up. There was Northern Basilia, led by a communist government, and there was Southern Basilia that was puppet to the Anzac nation. Southern Basilia was called the Democratic Republic of Basilia. There was now a new Cold War between communism and the capitalism, democratic nations against dictatorships. This was setting up the next season of Chapter 4 Season 2, and this will be continued in the next part.